Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll start off with a happy holidays. Appreciate everyone being out tonight. We can call our meeting to order for the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. Our regular meeting scheduled for today, December 15th, 2015, 6 p.m. If I can get the roll call.
The minutes will reflect all council members present.
Very good. And our invocation this evening, if you wish to stand, will be with Pastor Mike Nunchik of the El Redentor Church.
Father, as we stand before you this evening, we want to thank you for all the things that you do in favor of our city. And we thank you for the new change that has come into the city council. We pray that everyone will work together in harmony as they have in the past, and that all things will work together for good of our city and of our citizens. We ask for your protection in these days, troublesome days, and that we're living in, that you keep and guard our valley, our cities, and our whole nation. For we ask and pray all these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. And we get our pledge by council member. How did he? You don't mind?
Okay, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Pastor, this evening, and thank you, Councilmember Hadigi. Moving on, if item number 1 on our agenda tonight is approval of the agenda, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 2. Item number 2 is public appearance and comments. This period is not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any items that are not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone up here. Please state your name for the record. And if you are not, in this public comments period, you are not allowed to make any personal attacks on individuals or comments which are slanderous or may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct all your questions to the council. I do want to say also, we do plan later on the agenda here, we do have a public comments, a public hearing period. So if you're here in attendance for that, if you can please hold until then, we'll have ample time for that. So anybody outside of the public hearing that'd like to come up and make a public comment, please do so at this time. Wow. I don't see, and there's no Mr. Zara in the crowd? Nobody there? Okay, going once, going twice. We'll move on from public comments. We'll next move on to item 3A, which is a public presentation. This is recognition of the Brawley Junior League baseball team as inductees to the Imperial Valley Baseball Hall of Fame. And if we can have Coach Gonzalez step forward, if you don't mind, and share with us their great accomplishments.
Thank you, Council. I want to introduce the 2015 Junior League All-Star Team. This team set records for the city of Brawley and Imperial Valley. They played some really hard baseball and met a lot of players from the other cities. What was unique, this was the first time Brawley's ever hosted such a big tournament. Not only did we give them a nice hot summer to play with, we also gave them a really nice field. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, City Manager. You guys did awesome, really put up with us to make that happen. Also, George, thank you for coming to the games, talking to the kids. It really meant a lot to them. These kids won District 22, Imperial Valley. These kids won Section 7, San Diego. And they also won Subdivision 3, which is Southern California. It's the first time in Imperial Valley history, Brawley's, for that ever to happen. Boys, you want to come up?
Go ahead and come on up.
Coach Doug? Coach Thomas?
And Coach, I have a list here and a recognition, some certificates, so if you don't mind, I'll read off the players that are before us, and if we get an opportunity, we can get some pictures here. We have Jude Luttrell,
He's not.
Isaac Rios, Jacob Navarro, Michael Moreno, AJ Torres, Casey Klein, Nick Houchin, Jonathan Gonzalez. Is he here? Oh, just kidding. That's it.
He better be.
Christian
He's not in
Garcia,
Hawaii.
Brandon Lopez, Seth Diaz, Brandon Gamble, and Jonathan Aguirre. And I'd like to read the certificate if I could, and I will get to the coaches. We'll not forget the coaches, but if I can read the certificate for the players here. Certificate of recognition is hereby presented to the players just mentioned for outstanding achievement and sportsmanship as a junior league baseball team player inducted into the Imperial Valley Baseball Hall of Fame, dated this day, 15th day of December, 2015. Big round of applause for these players.
And, Mr. Mayor, they haven't been inducted, we just got the phone call. So hopefully, just with all the holidays coming up, hopefully at the beginning of the year, they get introduced. These boys played hard, you guys should all be proud of them. They got to meet Eric Karros, former Dodger player. We played against, he coached one of the teams that we lost to, but they played their heart out. They played with hurt, they played tired, they played every day of baseball. I think we got 2 or 3 days off in between there. The coaching staff, they did awesome, because I know they were tired too. Vacations were ruined because we were stuck in Brawley. We're used to traveling to other cities to the cool weather to play, but we had it to our advantage. They came down here and played in our 120-degree weather, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all. But like I said, you guys should be really proud of these boys. They really shined.
We absolutely are. And Coach, before I move on from there, I do want to recognize, I see Coach Klein up here, but we do have coaches Doug Klein, Augustine Torres, and Thomas Christensen. I don't know if he's present, but
He's right here.
don't see. Oh, there you go, on that side. Excellent. And for our coaches, I do want to read this real quickly. It's our certificate of recognition for the coaches for your commitment to the Brawley youth and achievement of excellence as coaches for the Junior League Baseball team, again dated this 15th day of December 2015. So congratulations again. And if I could, Coach, any council comments here while the team's up here?
Congratulations to all of you young men, and proceed and get on to the bigger and better ones, and I'm sure you'll do well. Thank you.
Congratulations. We're very proud of you. You make us proud. Thanks.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to see you play, and I had a great time watching you be successful out there. Keep up the good work, keep working hard, and keep doing well in school, okay? Good job.
Congratulations, young men. Brawley's proud of you, and we're all proud of you. Thank you.
I really want to thank Pat. I mean, she, I think she's in the other room, but she really, she went way over and beyond. The city of Brawley went way over and beyond. We asked them to cut the grass at 10 o'clock in the morning. They cut the grass at 10 o'clock in the morning. We said there was weeds or ants. Those ants were gone that same day. The other teams from other cities were impressed with our field. They were just, wow, with Westfield. I mean, they were really, really impressed. We've played on some nice fields, but we really have a nice field, something to be proud of. So let's hand these out.
Coach, if you can go ahead and hand these out, because you know, I think you know these players well. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Doug Klein. I was an assistant coach with this team, and Joel, thanks for all that you've done for this. And you guys should be proud. One little correction with Joel. Some of these kids, this is their second time to the state title. So what it says is there's a lot of talent in this town. And as coaches, they had 2 different coaching staffs both times. So it probably doesn't matter with the coaches. We got some talent here. And kudos to these kids. And I've coached in the Little League here in Brawley for years, and one of the things I always enjoyed is there's talent here, and it's fun to coach. And we want to say it's all about the X's and an O's, but it's most of the time about the Johnnies and the Joes that matter. So congratulations to these kids. Well-deserved. They're competitors, and they have a bright future. And thank you to all. Wonderful fields, wonderful support, and thank you.
Team Torres, who's the manager? Coach, want to say anything?
those your notes right there? Are those your notes?
I just want to say thank you, and I say to them because without them, we wouldn't have gone that far. They didn't give up. They didn't give up. We played some tough teams, and they'll remember you guys. When you guys in high school and you see them in high school, they're going to remember you guys. They're going to be, that's the team that got us. And to the parents and everybody in the city, thank you. It was awesome. It was a very fun ride. I'm still living it. Still living it. I look back at pictures and I miss it. But I would say next level, good luck, guys. And I be very scared because you guys are coming. That's why I say it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Aguirre. Brandon Gamble. Seth Diaz. Brandon Lopez. Christian Garcia is not here. We're missing a couple. We can skip Jonathan, right? Jonathan Gonzalez. Shake them there, go.
Too cute.
Nick Houchin. Casey Klein. Michael Moreno, didn't no show? AJ Torres. Isaac Rios. Jacob Navarro. We got Jude Latrell, which is also not here today. Agustin Torres, coach. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, City of Brawley. Thank you, council. Thank you guys for everything. And like I said, it means a lot to these boys. I know it does. They might not show it, but it does. Thank you.
Keep going.
Can we have the council stand up, please?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, big smiles.
Don't give up.
Those cameras don't use for it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for that, coaches, and then, again, job well done. We'll move on, we can here. We'll move on to item 4 on our agenda. And item 4 is our consent agenda. Items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request items to be considered separately at a time to be determined by the mayor. I do want, prior to calling for a motion, is to just point out item E. We can go ahead and if, as far as I'm concerned, or the rest of council, we'll keep it there, but do want to point out it is a higher dollar value item that typically would not be seen on a consent agenda. And Councilmember Noriega brought that as well as to my attention, as well as I think the rest of us did see that. But as acknowledged, this is a biannual purchase with all the backup material in there. But these are chemical products that are used for our water and wastewater treatment. So again, it's on a biannual cycle for this purchase. It is a big ticket item. So I am okay with keeping that item there. So what I will do, unless there's...
Mr. Mayor, there's an
Yes.
item that Councilmember Councilmember Howdy had mentioned. Was it item B?
Yes, item B, I'd like to abstain from, because I was not part of that meeting November 17th. So I'll abstain for that part of it and have a problem with the rest of the
Very
agenda.
good. Very good. Well, the record reflect that abstention from Councilmember Hadagi. So I'll move forward with calling for the question. All those in, oh, well, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Not in favor, and we have one
Well, one
abstention.
abstention for that.
Yes. Very good. Moving on to the next item. The next item will be item 5, our public hearing. And 5A is obviously the holding of this public hearing, which is the appeal of the Main Streets parcel, parcel map 15-3. The backup material, which was presented with the rest of the council packet, which comes out typically on Thursday of last week, has been certainly included. But before we move forward, what I do want to share with you tonight is kind of the order. We do want a staff presentation, albeit brief, that'll kind of hopefully summarize what has occurred with this particular topic. And then also from that, we'll also have an opportunity potentially to hear from the actual developer. And then from there, we'll commence on the actual opening of the public hearing. In doing so, I do want to state on the public hearing, we will do our level best to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to speak. But just as we mentioned, typically we try to limit that to 4 or 5 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to, unless a topic gets really way off, if you could, just being respectful for everybody having an opportunity to come up to speak, to try to make your point as best as possible within that 4-minute, 5-minute time frame. Also with that, if you do find somebody has come up and made a very similar point, again, just keeping it brief, but at the same time, we'll be extremely respectful and give everybody an opportunity. So we'll do the best we can with that hearing. I would also like to preface in the hearing, this is an opportunity for you, the public, the stakeholders, regardless of where you are within the city of Brawley, to come up and speak. And there will be notes be taken, not only by council, but as well as staff. There are specific questions that need to be addressed, whether they're technical in nature. Hopefully we have all those that can speak on that topic and subject matter experts here in the room. So we'll have an opportunity to do that and address those after the hearing. So it's very important that you understand this is your opportunity to speak, and we will take note, as much note as possible. So prior to that, with our city manager, is there any other brief that I left out? I'd like to move forward with our presentation. Yeah.
Note for the public's benefit that we do have complete copy sets of all the materials that were included in the city council posted agenda. And also wanted to note for the record that 2 comment letters have been received. Those are also available as copies, and the minutes as reflected in the council posted agenda did not reflect a change that was directed by the Planning Commission when they approved their meeting minutes. Had to do with the final vote count relative to the first motion that came before the Planning Commission. So you'll see in the version that's available here for the public's review, as well as up here on the dais, that the changes are underlined. It specifically involves Planning Commissioners Bambera's change that was noted in the Planning Commission meeting as an inaccurate reflection of the motion and action taken.
Excellent. And if I could, City Manager, thank you for prompting. We do have a letter, and I'll just reference that it is by Mr. Hugo Rodriguez. And address is 125 Emma Place, obviously right here within Brawley. And Mr. Rodriguez, his letter is in opposition for approval of this particular project moving forward, so I wanted to state that for the record. Also, one other point I would like to make, if I could, please, I want the public and everybody here, not just in attendance, but a part of this process to understand that the position of the council is quasi-judicial. We're here to take in and listen and take in all the facts that we can on this topic before we proceed from there. So that's our focus this evening, and if we could get a report here from our city manager, Roseanne Bayonne-Moore. Yeah.
Good evening, council and members of the public. There is one additional item that I wanted to note, and that is a subsequent letter of comment that was received by legal counsel for the applicant, and that is also available for the public, should the public wish to see a copy of that. That was prepared by the law office of Barbara Macri Ortiz. So with that, I have a very brief presentation to lay out the action that's before the council this evening. Tonight's item is the appeal of a parcel map. And this option is provided both in state law as well as our local ordinances. The project area that is the subject of this appeal is a 5-acre property located at First and Malin Street in the city of Brawley. This is the aerial view. It's currently a vacant property. To the north is our school site, and to the south is residential, a residential R1 subdivision. To the west is an apartment complex, which is also zoned R3. The subject of today's hearing is a tentative parcel map. This parcel map proposes to take the 5-acre parcel that was a single assessor's parcel number and subdivide it into 2 parcels. And as has been explained by the applicant, the intent of the subdivision is to provide for financing purposes that the applicant is pursuing. So just a very brief overview of the site history. As mentioned, this is a 5-acre property. It was pre-zoned in 1989 as an R3 parcel, and it was designated as such when it was annexed in 1990. It has been designated R3 since that time. The Malin Park subdivision, which takes in this property as well as the property to the immediate south, was entitled in 2005, and that's when the CEQA analysis occurred. In that subdivision effort, the project area for the Malin Park subdivision used to be entirely R3. And what happened in 2005 is that the portions of the property located to the south were changed from an R3 designation to R1. The 5-acre parcel that is the subject of today's appeal matter retained the R3 designation that dated back to 1989's pre-zoning. So the property in question had a set of rights that were then conveyed upon it, that as long as a site plan conformed with all of the ordinances on the books with the city of Brawley, that the city, the property had an ability to be developed. So a site plan was submitted by an applicant, and that applicant did meet all of the requirements per code. And in January 2015, the site plan was approved. Following the approval of the site plan, a parcel map application was prepared. So these were separate activities, and the parcel map required Planning Commission action to approve it. And so the Planning Commission attempted to hear this item on 2 separate occasions. On the first occasion, in October of 2015, as the minutes reflect, the Planning Commission was unable to achieve a quorum to either vote to approve the project or to deny the project. And motions were made on each side of the issue, and a quorum has to be met for the total number of seated planning commissioners in order to allow for an ordinance change. So that number 4 of 7 was not able to be reached in October of 2015. This caused the item to be placed on a future agenda at the request of our Planning Commission. So in November of 2015, the Planning Commission was scheduled to hear the item again. Between October and November of 2015, a series of topics emerged relative to how the Planning Commission would hear the item in November. And at the November 2015 meeting, we had several council members planning commissioners who opted to recuse themselves for a potential conflict of interest. So when those individuals stepped off the dais and an absence was experienced on that date by a planning commissioner, the Planning Commission had no longer available a quorum of the seated Planning Commission to hear the item. There were not 4 seated members available to act upon the parcel map. So this did not allow them to hear the item because they couldn't have a quorum for the action item. We did have our city attorney present at that planning commission meeting, and we were advised at that time that the Subdivision Map Act does define a time frame for approval of a parcel map, such as this one. And in this instance, a 50-day time frame is initiated at the time of application. So if the Planning Commission had failed to act within 50 days, the parcel map would be deemed approved by right, unless, of course, there was an appeal that was filed within a defined window. And in our case, in this instance, once the 50-day period transpired, a 10-day period was set for receipt of appeals that could be heard by the City Council. We are, as our backup documents indicate, in receipt of an appeal that has been brought forward by Ashley Mendibles on behalf of the residents in the surrounding area, and that item is the item on tonight's agenda. So if there aren't any other questions, this is the general overview. As explained, the parcel map as submitted and approved does in fact comply with all of the city requirements. Tonight you have the opportunity to hear from the public new information that they may wish to bring forward in the council's consideration of the appeal of the parcel map that's been approved.
I have a question.
Thank you.
When we, the city, do a change from R1 to R3 or whatever Rs we have, when we do those changes, do we take into consideration to send out notices to the neighboring neighborhoods?
Yes. When a zone change occurs, we are actually obligated by law to inform all of the owners of record within a certain number of feet from the project boundary. We are obligated to send them notices. So when the zone change occurred, what's kind of unusual about when the zone change occurred is that there were far fewer owners than there are today, because now it's subdivided into many different owners. Whereas in 2005, when the zone change occurred, it was a very different part of the city in that all the houses weren't in place that we see today. So, but the buffer, the area that we have to notify is set in law. So yes, there are notifications that go out, and a public hearing, documents are posted in a newspaper of general circulation. We are obligated to also advertise that a zone change is occurring.
So what year do you know that these homes started being built around this area?
I would assume it's after 2005. I will look, 2008.
2008, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's any, what I'd like to do, if we could, and this is for my fellow council members, note any questions. I think there's going to be more, especially as we get more input, our public input. And then when we do close the public hearing, that's really going to be our opportunity to take in all the information we can from the public as well as ourselves and address both the staff. I'm not saying there won't be questions that come up in between, but if we can, we'll have that opportunity. I do want to give an opportunity to kind of go in order here where we can take in and hear as much as we can. So if we could move forward, what I would like to have an opportunity also before we open the public hearing, if we can keep it relatively brief, but we do have the applicant, property owner, if you will, here, AMG Associates. And if you could step forward for a few minutes and give us your comments.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Cameron Johnson. I represent Brawley Pacific Associates, who's the current owner and developer of this project. Rosanna gave a very thorough explanation of the project and the process. Just to kind of piggyback on that, the project that we're proposing is an 81-unit apartment project. And unfortunately, due to financing constraints, we're unable to develop that project and build it in one phase. So because of that, we're building the project in two phases, which will consist of a 41-unit phase one, on the northern portion of the property. So it'll be the northern parcel that's created from the parcel map. That project will contain 41 units of apartments, a community building, a swimming pool, parking, other amenities. The land to the south will be reserved for a future Phase 2 when financing becomes available. So once we finish the construction of Phase 1, the project is leased up, we will then go out and try to secure additional financing to build that additional Phase 2. It's unfortunate we have to go that way, but the financing for these projects is very competitive, it's very difficult, and this was pretty much the only way we can get this project done is to split it up. So the main reason that we have to have the parcel map is for financing reasons, as Rosanna mentioned, because the Phase 2 land needs to be separate from the Phase 2 has to be separate from the Phase 1. It can't be encumbered by all the debt, equity, and those loans that are on the Phase 1 property. So that's the main reason we're here making this request for the parcel map. And I can answer any questions you guys have and the public has.
What we might have the opportunity to do, Mr. Johnson, if you're staying obviously for the hearing, when we get the hearing, we can have, as questions come up with the public, we can have you come up at that time. So,
Thank you.
moving on, what I'd like to go ahead and do at this time is go ahead and, for the record, let's open up our public hearing. And with that public hearing, if I can slightly impose here, if Ms. Mendiblis wouldn't mind kind of being the lead batter here. I know through the record and whatnot, you've been engaged in representation of the area, but again, everybody here, we'll just go right down the list. Anyone that wants to speak, all I ask is that just remember to state your name if you could for the record. And Ms. Mendiblis, if you don't mind, you can step up. We'll open up our public hearing at this time.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Ashley Mendiblis. I live at 127 Mackenzie Place. Tonight, I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm speaking on behalf of over 150 homes and residents of those homes in the area directly south and east of this project. The Planning Commission was supposed to determine whether or not the request to split the parcel for this minor subdivision protected the best interest, health, safety, and welfare of the public in general. The Malin Park subdivision traffic study was completed in June 2005 and provided a complete build-out date of 2025, a 20-year span. In 2005, the area south and east of this lot parcel was vacant. The Witter School loading zone was not located off Malin Street. It was located on 2nd and K Streets, I believe. They have since put in a bus loading zone on Malin. The proposed Malin Park subdivision consisted of 223 single-family homes and 100 senior attached homes, which is specifically stated in the traffic study twice. It doesn't mention the Victoria Park development, which would consist of 117 homes because there was a separate traffic study done for that area. The projected trips generated for single-family homes was a little over 2,100 daily trips, and for the senior attached homes, it was calculated to be 348 daily trips. We now know that this project site is not for senior homes, it's for multifamily homes. The city of Brawley accepts a level of service for road segments of C or better, and Malin is considered a collector street, and C or better would be 7,500 daily trips. So in 2008, the project assumed a build-out of Panel Road between 86 through Dogwood, which we all know has not taken place. In 2008, the trips projected for Malin between 86 and First Street was a little over 5,200. For Pano between 86 and First, it was almost 2,500, which is approximately 7,800 total, which would be on Malin Street, which is over the capacity. On Malin, Dogwood, and on Malin, from First Street to Dogwood, it was 5,600, and Pano between First and Dogwood was 3,000, which is 8,700 roughly, which is over the 7,500 capacity. In 2025, when the project would be completely built out based on this traffic study, Malin is planned to be a 4-lane collector road, which at this point is pretty hard to imagine, being that the school is directly north and the land to the south is all developed or would be developed. I'm not sure how 4 lanes would fit in, but the 2025 build-out plans for the intersection of Dogwood and Malin, First and Pano, and Dogwood and Pano to be signalized, or the study says that it would meet the signal requirements. We are close to the end of the year 2015, and South First and Second Streets are not completed. Pano and Wildcat are not completed from 86 to Dogwood, and neither is Legion Road. Without the completion of these east to west byways, the traffic gets pushed to Malin. It's our assumption that knowing this information, the city would require an update to the traffic study, being that Pano Road is still not completed through Dogwood. And also, if multifamily use was taken out of the calculation, wouldn't the city require an update to the traffic study now that it's planned for multi-use? The Planning Commission, here's a few pictures of the traffic at 7:50 in the morning on Malin, heading towards Witter, heading west.
Been there.
The Planning Commission was also to determine that the map was not materially detrimental to the enjoyment or valuation of the property adjacent to the site. With road access being extremely incomplete to the homeowners and residents of Malin and Victoria Park, the level of enjoyment is limited due to the fact that there are only 2 ways in and out. In the event of an emergency, first responders as well as residents could experience major complications with access. The Planning Commission was also tasked with ensuring that the map complies with all the standards and conditions applicable in the zoning district in which it is proposed to be located. The California Government Code Section 66474, Part B, states that a map should be denied if the design or improvement of the proposed subdivision is not consistent with applicable general and specific plans, as well as Part G, conflict with easements for access through or use of property within the proposed subdivision. So the parcel map does not comply with the city ordinance 27.167, which states each lot or parcel of land shall have a street or highway frontage of not less than 35 feet, where the front property line coincides with the street or highway line, including front property lines fronting on a street, knuckle, or bulb, or cul-de-sac. So from the parcel map shown, parcel 2 is surrounded by adjacent structures and homes, as well as parcel 1. So in order for the parcel map to be in compliance with the standards and conditions applicable in the zoning district, the city would have to approve a variance allowing the owner to have access through parcel 1 to allow for an ingress and egress to parcel 2 for street frontage. The Planning Commission also was to determine any impacts of the map on adjacent property, and if they were adequately mitigated with the design, proposed construction, and phasing of the site development, as well as adequate landscaping and/or screening to blend with adjacent uses. Section 27.256 of the zoning ordinances states, a change of zone conformance with the general plan land use element is conditioned upon owner mitigation of school impacts in accordance with the Brawley general plan. Such mitigation, while required as a consequence of a zone change, is deferred until such time as development of the property occurs. So the zone change to the parcel took place in 2005 and it was not developed. Will the city require that the developer owner mitigate any impacts to the adjacent elementary school? Also found in the zoning ordinances on page 96, it states that multifamily buildings shall be designed so the second-story windows are not located adjacent to private open spaces. In reviewing the site plan that the city approved, one can assume that building type B, located in the southeast corner of proposed parcel 2, would have windows facing the south and/or east. That would be in violation of protecting private open spaces of adjacent homeowners. Also, just wanted to mention that the environmental assessment prepared for the USDA states that the project is intended to provide 41 units of affordable senior rental housing in the city of Brawley, and that it is anticipated that the remainder portion of the parcel, which fronts 12th Street north of the project site, will eventually be developed in a manner compatible with the proposed project. The site of Mainland Street Apartments is nowhere near 12th Street. When I asked the USDA, they said they had no information on it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Mendiblis. And obviously that exceeded the 4 minutes. No, that's okay. We said that. And I kind of knew that, but I appreciate that. It hopefully frames up some of the topics that we want to make sure that we get addressed. And I do want to assure everyone as we move forward and take in the rest of the public comments that the intent is when we close this, we're taking careful note and make sure that all these topics are addressed. If they're not, then it makes it difficult to go forward. But as long as they are, we can kind of cross that once we take in all the input. So would anyone else like to please step up if you could and state your name and give public input? I'm going to say, don't make it too easy for me.
Good evening, Mayor Wharton and City Council members and members of the public. My name is Andrea Rourke, and I'm the Executive Director for the Imperial Valley Housing Authority. And I'm here this evening to advocate for the low-income families who could potentially reside in the proposed apartment complexes. There are 3 points I'd like to make. Number 1, housing is central to our quality of life. Research shows that having a stable, safe, and decent place to live is essential to maintaining a stable job, proper health and nutrition, and improvement of education. Stable housing is particularly important to children whose childhood experiences can be either be limited or increased by their opportunities as adults. This is why it's so important to provide affordable housing in lower poverty areas such as the one proposed. A strong body of research shows growing up in a safe, low-poverty neighborhoods with good schools improves children's academic achievement and long-term chances of success and may reduce intergenerational poverty. The second point I'd like to make is the current need for affordable housing in the Brawley area. There continues to be a growing need for affordable housing. While incomes and rents are both increasing each year, the rate of growth in income from the years 2009 to 2012 was 0.8%, whereas the increase in rents was 7.6%. And in our local area, this point is really driven home because our fair market rents from 2015 to 2016, as published by HUD, are going up 10%. And this drastically impairs our low-income families from finding housing because they're spending a lot of their money on housing, and then if the rents go up substantially, they're not going to find safe, sanitary, and decent housing. So we definitely need affordable housing in Imperial County. The third point I'd like to make is the economic impact that development has on the city of Brawley when you bring dollars in from private investors to invest in our county, in our city. For every dollar that a housing authority puts into development, $2.12 is returned to the local community and our economy. And this particular project would bring well over $10 million returned to our community. In conclusion, the applicant, working with the developer, we were the applicant originally, now we no longer own the property, but we worked with the developer to try to bring affordable housing to this area. We follow the procedures required by the city, and ultimately the apartment complex will have a positive impact on our entire community and provide much needed affordable housing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rourke. continue on. Do we have any other members of the public that'd like to come up and speak on the record?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council, general public. My name is Gilbert Otero. I'm a resident of Brawley. I just have some comments and concerns that I would like to do within the 4-minute allotted to me. First and foremost is that my understanding that a parcel split is almost like a subdivision where you're getting yourself 2 parcel numbers, which means that those are 2 individual properties where you could sell those, individually. Now, Mr. Johnson came up and made representation that it is vital for the project to go forward to be able to get this parcel split so you can, get some type of funding. But he can't tell us, at least in that brief statement, what the chances are of obtaining additional funding for the other part. Matter of fact, he made it seem like it was very, very competitive, very, very difficult. So just basing it on that, and this is strictly a hypothetical, let's say you allow this parcel split to continue. You have 2 separate properties, 2 different parcel numbers. One is where they're going to do the 41 buildings. It has no ingress or egress to either Maitland Street or First Street. It's almost like it's locked in. There's nothing that I saw that says that they're granted any easements or anything like that. So if I was the owner of that property, then I would decide to sell it to someone else and make the housing authority give me extra money to give them an easement for ingress or egress. Because if you look at that, and I'm just looking at I have no background in planning or zoning, but if you look at it and you look at this as a common sense approach, that split right there is totally contrary to what the city plan is, and also to public safety. If there's an emergency that happens there and you're tied down in there, I think that creates a problem. However, also I'd like to address just briefly the letter from council, from Barbara Macri Ortiz. And this is almost insulting because they make it seem like there's been opposition to low income housing. No one has ever said anything of opposition to low income. I grew up in front of the projects. I raised my family in front of the projects. So, I had no problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. The problem is that, look, if you go to my neighborhood, I'm probably one of the oldest guys there. We have a lot of young people that came in. They were going to, when they bought a home there, their intent was to raise their family there. Okay? And it could be any kind of, Trump could build apartments there and they'll still feel the same way. For me, I'm not selling. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to die where I'm living. But for them, this is their nest egg. This is the American dream, to be able to buy a house, raise their family, and not have to worry about all these obstacles that are going to be created by this project. And for them to say that, it's a violation of the Housing Accountability Act, it's almost like they're calling us racist. And never, ever in any conversations that I had with my neighbors has that ever come up. And I just want to address that part of that letter, because that all it is that she's advocating for her clients, but that's this is totally wrong. The basis is all wrong. So there is a couple things that I would like to look, just address with the city council here, is that if you allow this parcel split to continue, then I think that the housing authority or developers should also make some concessions to try to help alleviate the noise, increase the noise, the traffic, those things aren't being taken into considerations. I tried to read the drawing, and I can't tell if there's a buffer wall there or anything like that. And it just seems that a lot of times when members of the public try to ask questions, we don't get the answers that that'll clarify some of these things. And sometimes, just to be able to give someone an answer to a simple question avoids a lot of the problems, And I was going to share a lot of other things, but I think Ashley did a great job of advocating for, and it was closer to about 300 people that really wanted to come here today. But I think it behooves this council to look at the parcel map to see, okay, is it contrary to what the city is doing in following its own rules, your own ordinances? Because it is. My understanding that two parcels can be two different ownerships. And if you have one owner, one piece of property that doesn't have access to a street, then that creates a problem. All right, and thank you very much. And I know it's a difficult decision, but I think that the Planning Commission punted and put it on your lap when it could have made a decision, and address these concerns at the other hearings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Otero. And continuing, any other members of the public like to step up? Again, I know lots been said through the process, but if you are here in support of some of the testimony, I think either way, I urge you to come up and make your comments for the record. Seems like seeing none. I'm looking at here we go. Took a little coaxing.
My name is Justin Pancratz. I live on Mackenzie Place. Council, everybody. This is just a comment or a question more than anything. Who approved the site plan in January 2015? If somebody can maybe respond.
Would you like to answer questions at this time?
I'm really trying to hold on that, but if there's a short answer, we can do that, and then we can have further discussion if that answer's not good
The site
enough.
plan was approved because it conformed with...
No, by whom?
By city staff.
City council?
City
Planning?
staff.
Yeah, city staff, which typically would be all the relevant departments, such as planning in.
Planning, building, public works, public safety, all of the departments participate in a review of a site plan.
And then a vote is held?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Planning commission.
Okay, because if a vote was held and anybody on the planning commission was involved in that vote in January 2015, why would they recluse themselves in both October and November?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Please allow me to clarify. The site plan approval
Yeah.
is a document, a set of documents that are submitted to the city. City staff determines whether or not all the requirements are met, whether it's state law or local
And
ordinance.
then it just becomes approved?
They approve the site plan because a owner of a property, as long as they conform with the site plan requirements, they're
Very
approved.
good.
So that
Okay.
did not have planning
Okay.
commission
Ju-
action.
Just a question more than anything.
Parcel map is what went to the planning commission for action.
Thank you, Mr. Pancratz.
Maybe we need to clarify that.
Any others? Okay.
I have a question, please, and I'm not part of the subdivision, but it's just.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, just for the record, I appreciate that.
Thank you for letting me talk to you.
No problem.
My name is Sandy Hoskins. I do not live in this subdivision. I live in the Merritt subdivision. It's okay, I don't need to talk to them.
They need to hear you.
And
It's
we
for
were-
our camera.
Oh,
Recording,
okay.
yes, I
When we
appreciate
were
it.
here for the planning commissioners meeting, and I asked the chairman why we couldn't have why they couldn't have a special meeting.
Mm-hmm.
He said he didn't want to have a special meeting. So that's my question, why?
We'll,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question and noted, and we will address that. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorena Delgadillo, and I live on 882 Madison. We moved in, I remember, in 2007, and we have 4 daughters, thank God, and they were growing up My twins, they were born there. It's been a peaceful community. The neighbors, we know each other. We play on the street. We don't have any traffic. We don't have to worry about anyone, running over our kids. And it's very quiet, very peaceful, and I love it. And I really, really feel like I am going to lose that. And not only me, all my neighbors, at least on the block, when we talked about it, we feel like we are going to lose that peace, that comfort, that security, that safety, that we know we can be outside and play, and I think it's going to happen. It's not crowded. I really don't like it to be crowded. I guess that's one of the reasons why I live in Brawley, because it's a small town, quiet town. I love it here. So that would be, my main concern. We are going to lose the peace that we have right now, and of course, the safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Would there be any other public comment? Seeing none, I will at this time close the public hearing. And in closing the public hearing will take us to public hearing, item 5B, discussion of potential action. But as advertised, as we've already shared, I would like the opportunity, if we could, with staff. I have several of my notes. I'm sure council has notes as well. For our council members, this will be our opportunity, whether it be staff, and if need be, if there's a subject matter expert that we heard during the hearing that we want to invite back up, we can certainly do that. But if we could, I'm going to turn to our city manager and start with maybe some of the items that were initially talked about, and I know our planning director, Mr. Geist, is also equipped to step up and answer some of the questions.
Mr. Mayor, if we could define the scope of the appeal first, I think that would be very important for everyone to.
Because I'm not sure if I understand.
Our city attorney, sure.
All that the council has jurisdiction to do is to approve or deny the appeal. The parcel map has been approved as a matter of law under the Subdivision Map Act because the Planning Commission couldn't act. So the parcel map is in effect. The division is in effect. You can approve or deny the appeal, or you can take no action. If the default, if the council takes no action, is that the parcel map stays in effect. To answer the lady's question, why the Planning Commission couldn't have set a special meeting, they could have, but it was very, very clear based on the members that were left, they would never have gotten a quorum one way or another. Based on the vote they took the previous month, they would never obtained 4 votes one way or the other, so they wouldn't do it. And we did have other commissioners that had to recuse themselves because of conflicts that were pointed out at a council meeting, and we researched it and pointed it out to them, and they did recuse themselves.
And I have a follow-up, just for clarification, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the appeal, I know there's a mention of a section and subsections. Is that the depth of the appeal? Are we looking at those items? I know that there's comment from our city staff addressing those concerns in there. Is that what we're looking at specifically?
Right. Government Code Section 66474 enumerates the factors that a city council or a planning commission may consider to deny a parcel map. Parcel map's not like a subdivision. It's like a subdivision, but it's not, because it's just you're making less than 4 lots. And the government code enumerates what you can take into consideration. Those are the only things you can take into consideration. That's why it was laid out to the council, and that's why we prepared that handout for the public. The burden is on the appellant, and you must, if you uphold the appeal, you must do so, and you must cite to substantial evidence that goes to one of these factors. And a written decision will be required, so if the council does uphold it tonight in a motion, I'm going to be grilling you about what your evidence is, because I'm sure you're going to task me with writing the decision.
And one further comment or question, an approval of the appeal would essentially disapprove the parcel split, is that correct?
Correct.
And if we deny the appeal, it just continues forward.
Status quo, the parcel map.
Thank you.
But that's the only thing we're deciding tonight, not the I think, and everybody needs to understand that. It's not the project, it's not any of that. It's just that parcel map split. That's the only thing we're looking at tonight, and I hope everybody's aware of that. Because, and even with that.
Is it
it's
the parcel map or the parcel map split? Because I keep hearing two things.
No, it's one thing, when you say a parcel map, a map it's what's drawn to make the split. So when we refer to a parcel map, what we're talking about is the actual engineering document that will be recorded splitting a parcel into two.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we're not done. Will be ample opportunity to keep asking a question. But just so we don't stray too much off of the parcel split, what I think is important, though, I do want to make sure we address some of the issues that were brought up, such as the traffic study and whatnot. And if we could reference the appropriate code sections that we have addressed, because some of that's in the backup material.
So I would like to invite up both the planning director as well as our acting city engineer. And I will provide a general summary. If more specific details are required, they will be prepared to respond. With regard to the expectation that a new traffic study would be prepared, the CEQA analysis, the California Environmental Quality Act analysis, is what prompts the preparation of traffic studies. Because the property was entitled back in 2005, those are the conditions that are developed for the private property, as well as the requirements that are in place going forward. It is only if a zone change would occur or a conditional use permit would be applied for that we could attach new conditions to a project. The site plan approval process, in contrast, says that the zoning is in place. Now, a site plan, when submitted, as long as it meets all of the standards that are identified, and I think there were a lot of questions that came from the audience with regard to whether or not standards were met, and I think we'll be prepared to respond to those. But that is on the topic of the traffic study. That occurs when either a CUP is applied for or there is a zone change. So the traffic study that was applicable occurred in 2005. As I think many members of the council have expressed, there's a desire to see a lot of circulation improvements in that part of the city, and we are, continuing to seek outside support for the development of various connections that would serve that particular housing subdivision. Want to also note, and if I could have our Planning Director, Gordon Geist, bring up the page with the parcel split. I think it would be helpful to show both council and the public previous, right? That shows simply the parcel split, not the ingress and egress. If you turn to page 45 of the agenda packet, and you'll see called out in greater detail, Phase 1 and Phase 2. I would like our planning director to walk through the ingress and egress that provide access to the public street.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Gordon Gase, planning director. What you're seeing here is the tentative parcel map. It looks like on this particular document that there isn't access to a street. However, one of the conditions of the approval and the proposal by the developer was to allow a blanket easement across this parcel to this parcel. And like I said, I don't have the luxury of having the site plan up here, but if you see, there's two accesses. One is on Malin, and the other one is down here on South First Street. There will be an easement for this property, regardless of if it's sold or if it remains the same owner, to be able to go across that property, because when the final map is recorded, it will be recorded as an easement. That is a condition of approval. That's technically, according to Mr. Smearden, already included in the
site plan approval.
The tentative map, right.
Okay, so in addition to that item, There was also a general statement offered on mention of low-income housing, and I would just encourage the public to take a look at the minutes as they were prepared for each Planning Commission meeting. The first Planning Commission meeting that was held, a number of concerns were raised by members of the community. And as a result of that record being part of the consideration of this topic, I believe there's a great deal of heightened sensitivity to the implications of a denial. So I just want to note that for the record. And we tried our best in the preparation of the materials for backup to provide for a place for resident concerns and be sure that city and staff were not participating in any kind of discriminatory review of the items. Let's see, the additional item that was raised and would also look to our planning director to address is there was mention of the orientation of the windows for one of the buildings that are proposed. And it was noted that the south and eastern facing
Correct.
windows were not in conformance with city standards. Could you please describe how that is or is not the case?
Sure, that they have the same setback at least that a single-family home would have if these were subdivided at the time, and it was more of this area was rezoned to R1. If these were R1 lots, say you basically cut this area here and you paste it here, it wouldn't be any closer than an R1 lot being to your rear yard than the apartments will be.
So we don't have a conflict with
The ordinance, no.
with city code. Okay. Those were the items that I noted. I believe the question of why a special meeting was not scheduled was provided. I will also state for the record that staff did have 2 dates available and proposed for a potential meeting date because one of our planning commissioners had an excused absence due to a personal matter. Those dates were not pursued for the reasons our city attorney referenced.
I think there was, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor?
No, go ahead. If you have comment, I was actually going to turn back to council for maybe going down the line with question, but go ahead.
But with respect, there were some other questions with respect to any other mitigating items that could be taken into consideration with respect to like buffer walls, anything to reduce the noise levels. Is there anything like that in place now?
Yes, the south and east boundary lines will need to be 6-foot masonry walls as required by the ordinance. Not just wood. They will have to be masonry.
They will be
right.
masonry.
Because that was one of the things that we asked for an addition because of the difference between the R3 and the R1.
By 1 second, if I could, and actually hold that, I'll have you come up. Any other questions?
Did you
on
say
that?
the north and south, is that?
No, the south and the east. It would be the areas adjacent to the houses. The other areas will have wrought iron fence. Adjacent to the streets will be wrought iron fences.
So Ashley, before council continues on, it sounds like you had a follow-up question with that come up, but I want to make sure that the public hearing part's closed, but go ahead and if you could step back up for me, I apologize, but.
Sorry, just one comment. For the boundary south, there is a 6-foot existing block fence, so will another fence be added on their property? And then the wood fence that backs up on the east side for Victoria, will they replace that with the block fence, or are they gonna put a block fence next to it? And also, I would like the city council to note that there's a fence that separates Valencia and Tangerine Gardens that is way beyond 6 feet.
I believe that is a 6-foot wall also.
No, it's taller. I live over there.
It's taller.
Yeah.
Way taller, maybe 10 feet.
Well, you have the luxury of putting up your own wall higher, but the ordinance says 6 foot. So maybe once the people moved in there, they may have added, the original owners may have added some, but I don't remember any specific condition that required it being any higher. Unless it was something the developer just did, but it wasn't a minimum requirement.
Okay, so council, if I could move, maybe we'll kind of do this a little more systematically because we wrote down. So Councilmember Noriega, I don't know if you have questions at this time you want to direct at staff.
I didn't write down all of Ashley's questions and comments that she made. She did, have to say, you did do a lot of homework and a lot of work at what you did. My comments are that there was one that I needed, let me find it. For me, the traffic study is one of the biggest things. I'm not sure, does it cost a lot that we wouldn't be able to, be able to do that? And I say that in regard to children. We do have, I go down Mayland Street almost every morning to get to one of our offices, and it does get really congested there. It takes quite a while, So we are going to build some more units with a lot more children. And always remember that children to me are firsthand. Senior citizens are second. So I just would like to know what the cost is of another traffic study, and why would we not do that? You had some kind of an explanation, but I just don't feel that that was good enough. Sorry.
Okay. So when a project is proposed and it involves a change in the environment that is part of either a zone change or a restricted use that's defined as a conditional use in our ordinance, it prompts the preparation of a document and technical studies that say this is life before the project and this is life after the project. And an applicant is required to mitigate life before the project versus life after the project. When that occurs in this instance is when the zone change occurred. After the zone change analysis takes place and the city certifies the environmental document and gives all these rights and privileges to a subdivision, an owner then can come in. We don't have the ability to change up the rules on the owner. The owner then has a right to pull a building permit, and as long as they follow the rules, we can't change up the conditions. It's not legal for us to do so. So that is the reason in this instance we did not attach additional requirements. We didn't prompt another CEQA analysis because we don't have the legal right to do so.
So the zone change was done in 2005?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. At that point, we didn't have, I believe you also stated, that we did not have that many neighboring houses, correct?
They weren't subdivided into individual dwelling units. They were a big, kind of like the way you look at this parcel on a map. They started a total, like a blank canvas before they're subdivided into individual parcels.
Victoria actually started first.
Okay.
So they were entitled first.
Okay.
And Mayland Park, when they did their traffic study, they also included, and Gateway was first too, they included all of those cumulative traffic counts in their traffic study. They have to.
Okay. So again, my question is, at that point, when we started building all the homes around, it really changed the traffic. It has changed the traffic even more now, so lately, because of them putting the buses that, we're going through the back. And first, you could drive in, because I would pick up my grandson, you could drive into that zone, they had parking for vehicles. But now, because of the congestion, they no longer allow you to go in there. So now you have to be outside on the street trying to find, parking spaces to be able to walk your child to the school. That, to me, has a lot to do with traffic. So again, I'm really totally confused, and, I don't know if anybody else is. The question is, if we understand as a city and as a city council that is a lot of traffic we are engaging in, and with the schools and with the students, with the neighboring, because not only are the neighbors bringing their childs in, we have outside, I forget what the zone is or what the locations of all. So we're bringing in more. So now we're building these homes for more children, more cars, more vehicles. It just, to me, is unsafe. And for us not to be able to afford our community that traffic study is, I just don't understand it.
If we could, just for the sake of the public and council, just define what the traffic study is, what is encompassed within a traffic study, and who's responsible for traffic studies. I think that would help answer some of the concerns that you have.
So traffic studies are typically prompted by a proposed project. The proposed project has to provide an analysis, whether it's traffic, air quality, biological impacts, there's a whole series of topics. They have to say, this is life before what we're proposing, this is life after what we are proposing. The applicant is responsible for preparation of the technical study. The technical study becomes the basis for our CEQA analysis and the conditions we attach to the project. The conditions that are identified often have triggers where it says after X number of building permits pulled or X amount of square footage developed, these are the conditions that are attached to the project. And when you look at the CEQA analysis for this area to the south, generally, both the Malin Park subdivision, areas to the east and further to the south, the McMillan homes that are there, you will find the CEQA analysis is complete for all of those projects. All of those homes are not built, but the conditions are already in place that are attached to all of those projects. There won't be an opportunity to reopen them unless there is a zone change, there is a conditional use that's proposed, or some other change and prompting event occurs. So the conditions that are identified as mitigation in these studies literally are transferred into the conditions of approval that are attached to a map. And in this case, the traffic mitigation tied to the Malin Park subdivision, those included several improvements that are actually already in place, including the signalization of Highway 86 in Malin. It is recognized that this is a very congested area by our city standards because there is a school site and this is a major east-west thoroughfare. And particularly around school pickup and drop-off times, it is extremely congested when you compare it to other city streets. It does not yet exceed the level of service C. And when you look at the levels of service in a traffic study, they're kind of a range of the alphabet, and it's based on waiting times associated with coming to intersections. So we have not exceeded those standards. Locally, it may cause a lot of inconvenience, but our standards aren't any different from any other city in the state of California relative to the traffic.
Because we're not only including the parents and the kids that are coming through there, you're including us people who have to work or drive from our homes over to El Centro. A lot do take Dogwood now because of the congestion that we are having. But these are the things that we as council need to remember, that these are the type of roads that we need to really consider, especially like Wildcat that was brought up and Pano. Those are the streets that we cannot afford to say, yes, go ahead, we're going to wait for you for another 5 years to open up the street. So these are the things I just expressed to the council. Please, we need to consider these outlets for our community, for the safety of our children.
Just to clarify a couple things on what the city manager said, it's true, the mitigation and monitoring program is basically already in process. The thing is, this apartment site is part of the Phase 1. Okay, when the Phase 1 came in, including allowing building all these homes here, plus that apartment complex, and Unit 1 of Victoria. Any further development south of this line, what I'm showing right here, and also any new units, which have since expired actually for Victoria, would require the construction of their fair share of Wildcat and associated intersections, be it at South First Street or at Dogwood. The thing is, the numbers in here, these particular numbers were already included in the traffic, in all the other analysis that the city manager mentioned for the first phase. So, and I might as well continue on the traffic numbers. I do have a more recent traffic study that I got for the proposed middle school site over on the east side of town. They did analyze this section of roadway here. Their impact isn't going to be that great, but it gave us some updated numbers. Those numbers currently are actually lower than they were in the build-out numbers for the Malin Park, Victoria Park, Gateway traffic studies, because they're not built out. Okay, so that they're less. The numbers you see in those traffic studies are assuming build-out. That means you're assuming units 2 and 3 here, and you're assuming the other half of Malin Park here. So you're looking right now at about 6,100 on here. A low-income housing project usually has similar traffic, or probably between the traffic of a senior housing project and a normal market rate housing project, which is approximately 530 trips. Well, that's 530 is market rate. And seniors probably about 370, so you're probably talking somebody in there with the addition, so you're probably talking around maybe 60, 65, 6,600 in terms of actual traffic after this project would be built, up not just the first phase, but both of the units.
Thank you. And
So
Mr.
that still
Gase,
keeps it under the 70.
Yeah, and I apologize, not to interrupt, but I do want to make sure that we kind of don't stray too much. Obviously, traffic was one of the issues brought up. Just for my simplification, are we in compliance when it comes to?
Let me
Yes.
try to make sure that the council understands what the planners are telling you.
Yeah.
The cities only get certain opportunities to tell people what they can do with their private property. This is private property. And cities can impose conditions when people want to change the zone, which is what happened in 2005, and city imposed conditions. Cities don't get to impose conditions when they want to do a parcel map, not these type of conditions. So it's not a question of can we afford a traffic study? It's a question of can we make them do one before we approve it? And the answer is no, we cannot. That's the law.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do, because I like simplicity from my understanding, and hopefully really for council's edification, if you don't mind, let me ask a few questions that I share down. And really, if we can keep it to more or less yes, no, and if it requires further discussion, we can. Is the proposed parcel map, is it consistent with our zoning?
Yes.
Okay. And design and improvement of the proposed subdivision, is it consistent with all the applicable, our general plan and specific area plans?
Correct.
Okay, that's important, and this is very important for the record. Not only is it involved in our, included in our packet, but I think it's really important, some of the issues that were brought up. To me, it's real simple. We're either in compliance or we're not, and if we're not, it doesn't give us the ability to move forward. And the site obviously is suitable for the proposed project.
Correct.
And along with that is the parcel map, any of the improvements likely to cause any serious, because I think the issue of public health and safety obviously being paramount, being brought up. With all the available analysis, with everything that the California Government Code as well as the ordinance requires us to do, and that's not just this project, that's any project that we embark on as a city within our jurisdiction. Does it comply with that, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. That's for me, and that's very important for me to understand. So moving forward on our discussion on the actual split, is there anything that I would like staff to share with us that would keep that split? And I think we heard from our city attorney, but from being out of compliance or would cause us not to move forward. Because my follow-on question to that, if we were to deny this application and move forward, is there a potential exposure to the city or a certain liability that we accept because this is a land use?
Absolutely. If you deny it tonight, then I'll have to write a written decision within 10 days. That'll be published. And then I expect the petition for writ of mandate would be filed because I really don't think you have the evidence to deny it. That's my legal opinion. And then we will be in court and the developer would most likely sue us, ask for a petition for writ of mandate, ask the judge to overrule your decision. He's likely to win, and if he does win, we'll get to pay his attorney's fees, as well as mine, to defend the city.
Is, with that going down, Councilmember Jauregui, do you have further questions?
Well, because our attorney did state that the only way that, or what we're looking at is this particular section, 66474. And I believe that in the letter of the appeal, they indicated that they felt that under subsection G and D, there were some areas that they felt they could provide evidence under those two subsections, but I'm not clear if Ms. Mendivlis would like to specifically address those, since those are the areas that we, that section of the law, 66474, is what we're looking at, or if anybody else is, just to make it clear for our council, because we have to have evidence that falls under that particular section of the law. And I know that you covered a lot of different things, and in particular, the safety issue, and I'm just wondering if you felt that the safety fell under one of those particular areas, or?
Mostly the easement issue, which he said that is granted by basically right, they don't have to apply for it.
They have
They do.
applied for it. It's part of the parcel map application. They have to provide, legally, they have to provide access to that parcel. So as part of the final map, they will be granting actually a double easement to both of those streets.
Let me ask a follow-up question then, because on the material that we received, where it says a response to California Code Section 66474, where it establishes the parameters, and it says that there is no need for a public easement through the property.
Public easement.
For a public easement?
It's a private easement.
Okay. So there's no need for any other easement then? The public streets are already serving the existing area?
Correct, yeah, there doesn't, what it's saying is there doesn't need to be a public street that runs through the middle of the property or anything like that. Because there's nothing in our circulation element that requires a street to run through that property.
So if I could, just, in this case, since the owner of the parcel before the split, right, since they just granted themselves an easement, it's recorded, and if it is sold, it will be recorded, and if it's sold, that easement would continue along with that parcel, so the next developer, if there is one, would be responsible, and they would have access to their property as well.
Correct, it would run with the land, the easement, correct.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Sam.
And that has been recorded?
Oh,
It will. Yes, it has to be.
I just,
Well, that's the.
Is that recorded?
The tentative parcel map, this is the process where we're making sure that these things are in place. And like I said, it's actually a condition of approval that they have an easement for that. So when, actually, the final map will still come back to council. The final maps usually go on consent. If there's a need to talk about it further, you could still pull it. But what it's gonna be the final stamped engineers, surveyors, map that It's going to show where the recorded easements and all the other documents that, the owner's certificate, everything that goes with that, that once you guys approve it, then either I or the city clerk take it down to the county, we record it, it then becomes two legal parcels.
Well,
What else?
well, most of my questions, I think, I've received answers to. I just had a concern, and as I'm always concerned with when you separate projects, even if you have one person doing a project, and it's probably not within the realm of our authority to question. However, when projects get separated, different things happen. And so one of my concerns is that you build something, but you only build a partial, and then something happens to that, and the other partial doesn't get built, and it has somewhat of an impact on that first parcel. And so those are some of my concerns, but I think in the situation here, I'm not sure that we have the authority as a city council to question that at this point in time. I don't know that that's within our purview to say to them, see, because when I look at this map on phase 1 and phase 2, it's not clear to me what's phase 1 and what's phase 2. Okay, and so that's my concern. And what's going to be built under phase 1 and phase 2 might have an impact on the people and the residents in that area. And so that's my concern. I don't know that we have the right or the purview to say, well, we don't want to split this, but I do think that's a concern of mine, and it's just a concern that I share, I think, with others.
I believe in your packet, maybe, not on the PowerPoint, but in your packet, there is.
Page 45.
Yes, and I know maybe it's hard to see on the smaller copy there to see where the line is.
Right, I can't
Right.
ascertain from this map.
But that, it's like Mr. Johnson said, it's 41 units in phase 1, which is parcel 1, and it would be an additional 40 units on parcel 2. Now to quell your concerns about the future, if somebody comes in and buys parcel 2 that wasn't the same entity, and they would still need to follow the ordinance, and they couldn't put in like double the number of units or anything because there's a restriction on that.
Correct.
Or, and all the design, everything, or if they wanted to change the use, they would have to do a zone change, and it would have to come back up to council where you can make a decision on if you find that appropriate or not.
And that might be, but when I look at this map, I think to myself, and I see there's buffers that occur because of where they're going to place buildings, and there's buffers that occur because of the walls and the other things that occur here. So I think it's important that the people that live in close proximity understand what's going to be built out first and what's going to be done first to buffer any kind of issue, because there may be some natural barriers and buffers that occur due to the build out that I can't see from this map, and I'm not sure that they would understand that, because when you look at this map, the buildings aren't necessarily up against the wall. That they're not. It may be that there's an ingress road that runs along that wall, which separates that building from and parking areas that separate that building facility from their property line. And so that's some of my concerns that I see from this. And it may not be an issue for the separation of the parcel, but it certainly could be. If they're going to build a front part towards the school first, that might have an impact on the residences towards the back section. And that's my concern.
Right. Well, right now, they're in the first phase. They're planning on building all of those units that you see on page 45 that are adjacent to the streets and the community center and the pool and the amenities.
Okay, so they're going to build, when you look at this map, they're going to build this section all the way through here.
Correct.
And they're going to build this building.
Yes.
And they're going to build this pool.
Yeah, correct.
And any of these buildings closer to these households would not be built in the first phase, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that, and then when I'm looking at this map, just so that I understand everything, this is the property line, right, that runs along here? And they're gonna have parking and an ingress or a way to drive through here, a driveway that rides through here so that people can park in here.
Correct.
But these buildings are not gonna be right up against this property line
No.
or within 5 feet of this property line.
no.
They're gonna be
25, 30,
25 feet
more
away,
probably, right.
maybe further, okay.
Right. Yeah, the only one, there's the one on the southeast corner that's going to be the closest.
This one might be of concern to me.
But it's, like I said, it still meets the setback requirements and is further than, if that was a single-family, two-story home, it'd probably be able to be closer than that.
And I understand that, but my concern is the first and second phase, because we're gonna, if we vote to approve the parcel separation, we're gonna see them build one part of this thing, and it might be several years before they build the other section. Now, I don't know, I don't know from the
That's the thing, we
developer,
don't know.
what, if you'd like to come up and maybe comment on that. I don't know how long it's gonna be for the other parcel to be developed.
Yeah, basically, the way the process is going to work is as soon as the parcel map is approved and it's recorded, the parcel 2 will be transferred back to the Housing Authority. That's the Housing Authority's property. So the original process was we were going to get the parcel map completed, then close our financing. But unfortunately, because of the delay in getting the parcel map recorded, we had no choice because of financing deadlines to have Brawley Pacific Associates buy the entire parcel. But we have an agreement with the Housing Authority that as soon as the map is recorded, that parcel 2 land will go back to the Housing Authority, in which we have an agreement with them to, at some point, to sell that for the Phase 2 development when we get our financing, which we expect to be in 2 to 3 years down the road.
Okay, 2 or 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, but what I'm looking at when I look at this, and maybe I'm getting off track. don't
And I
know.
need to clarify something before you move on.
Okay.
Because I'm a little bit confused about who owns, okay, so Imperial Valley Housing Authority does not own this whole parcel?
They
at
did.
this point?
It was sold.
Could you start with the
Could you-
beginning
yeah, please.
ownership, how it
Because-
transitioned?
yeah.
I think that would be helpful
Sure.
too.
The property was purchased back in 2014 by Alexis Kevorkian, AMG and Associates, who donated the property to the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority sold the property last month to Brawley Pacific Associates, which is a tax credit limited partnership which is created for an affordable housing project. And I believe it was on November 20th is when the property was recorded, when it closed. Now, the plan was at that time was to only sell parcel 1, assuming we got the parcel map recorded. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that because there were delays, and so the entire property had to be transferred. We had to work out an arrangement with our debt and equity providers that we would do a transfer of parcel 2 post-closing of all the financing. So they've all agreed to allow that parcel 2 land, when the parcel map is finally recorded, to go back to the Housing Authority, because they are the rightful owner of that parcel 2. And that's something that we completed within the last 3-4 weeks.
Okay, so it was donated to Imperial Valley Housing Authority, and then the Housing Authority sold it to
Brawley Pacific Associates.
Brawley Pacific. But it's going to still, because all along I was thinking that because it was Imperial Valley Housing Authority, that's why it was designated for low income. So it's, even though it was sold to a private developer, it still remains a low income. That's your
Correct.
intent?
Correct,
To
yeah.
make it low income housing?
Correct.
But it has nothing to do with Imperial Valley Housing Authority any longer?
No, Imperial Valley Housing Authority is basically the land seller.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
But I should mention that these transactions, although it sounds complicated, they're not unusual, especially with these types of projects. So what I'm hearing, I've heard multiple times in the past. It's not, especially with financing, my background's in residential and commercial financing, this is not unusual. So it sounds unusual, but it's really not.
It's very common.
Yeah.
There's probably 100 of these projects built a year in California.
I would like to, if we could, let me, and thank you, Mr. Johnson, if needed. I want to make sure all questions on council have been addressed, but if I could just kind of get us moving down the road with what we've learned, what's important. I want to make sure this is very clear. This is our first opportunity as council where we discuss this and really take in many of these facts outside of what has been handed to us in the packet here. I myself personally, I'm sure most of my council members here, other than the designated ones, we're not part of the commission here, planning commission meetings, although we've had certainly, just as the public does, access to the minutes. So know that most of our research and our decision-making is right here in front of you. So that's really important. That's why for me, it has to stay pretty simple. And I know that we've raised a lot of key topics, but In my summary, this has been zoned R3 since 1990. I think that was clear, and I don't think anybody's arguing that point, and that's high density, that's apartment housing, regardless of what the nature of the housing is. So, and I think as Mr. Otero stated for the record, the issue is not the low-income aspect, obviously. The issue is really density, and the biggest thing I heard is traffic impacts. And unfortunately, in a city, especially a growing city, we have those impacts in not only other parts of the city, but it is an issue. There's no doubt. I don't think that's been, anybody's kind of passing over that. But it's really important. What I'm understanding is that yes or no, are we in compliance? Have we met not only all the requirements, have done the due diligence, and have done what we do? This property is owned. It's by use. And it's real important, again, tonight. The question is that we're focused on, at least I feel that's my duty here tonight, is focusing on, is this property in compliance for a lot split? All the other issues that we brought up, albeit absolutely, they're very topical. And I think here's the one thing I would say, regardless of what the vote is this evening, those issues can remain. And as we continue to expand, mitigation plans, other plans in the future still come into play. But as we're looking at this project, my understanding is just most important, are we in compliance? Has the due diligence have been done? And if there's more questions around that, I think we need to ask those questions. If they're not, I think we should consider moving forward. And then outside of that, my final point on that is we discussed the scenarios. If we were not, I want to make this very clear to the public, what's at stake here with this decision is the exposure of every taxpayer and every citizen within this city. So opening us to potential litigation, and I'm not saying that's not something typically that's brought up in public, but this is really a land right use topic, and I think that's been well established. I think really what we need to consider is, do we have anything to move forward with on not approving the lot split? But with that, those are my, if it spurs on some additional questions, I want to turn back to my councilman. Do we have any other questions for staff?
I don't have any other questions, but I do have remarks. In all this discussion, the only thing that I can say is a lot of us have learned, even the landowners and the ones that own the homes around there, they've learned about litigation, they've learned about how to ask questions and know what they're entitled to. It's sad that to me, it's not so much that we wasted everybody's time here, but that our city attorney what he stated to us is really we have no other recourse than to go ahead and approve it. Because if we don't, we're going to be getting into litigation for monies that the city cannot afford for. So unfortunately, how sad. How sad.
I have no further comments.
I have no other comments. Thank you.
I just think that we're between a rock and a hard place, and I'm not sure exactly what we're supposed to do, but we'll make the decisions that we have to make, I think, as a council. I'm concerned that no one's going to be real happy with any of this. And the only thing I can say is that in listening about the split and everything, maybe the split's a good thing because only half of it gets built. And so, maybe in the long run, if the split is approved here by the council, maybe only half of this gets built. But the only thing I can say to you is that it appears from everything that I can see is that we can't make, we can only make a certain limited decision in here. And so that's all that we have. And that's all I have to say.
All right, and one thing I didn't state, and I'll finalize, and we'll see if we can discuss and craft a motion, but I hope everybody understands, and I'm talking about all the residents that are certainly not just represented here tonight. I can't express any other way than these are not the decisions that council necessarily looks forward to. I hope that's understood. The other thing, I really came in, and I think all of us did, with not only an open mind, but very eagerly open to hear what the public hearing brought in, as well as what our staff brief was. We all get a different understanding. It can be a very complex issue. I think someone mentioned, Mr. Otero mentioned, not being necessarily a planning or a land use expert, nor am I, and I think any of us, maybe some people have that background, but that's why for me it really just narrowed down to, what can we do, what can't we do? Your concerns as residents, again, I always state this, whether you live in that neighborhood or not, or adjoining neighborhoods, or even across town, your concerns are our concerns. And I hope everyone understands that we've taken in and listened to as much as we can. And regardless, it sounds like I'm preparing for it. I have no clue how the vote's going to go. As a matter of fact, what I do want to ask is, I think it's important that if a motion is made tonight so we can move forward, that it is made consistent with the topic that we're voting on. So if I can open it up. Yeah.
Well, I'll just
You have
add a comment.
Yeah.
I'll echo your sentiment, Mr. Mayor. And again, it's difficult to make decisions like this. I know it's a very close and personal subject matter to everybody that lives in the neighborhood. But as you've heard, and I knew it in advance too. I mean, we've discussed this multiple times with our city staff to making sure that we're doing the correct thing, whether that's for the residents or the property owner in this case. I know it's maybe not going to be the answer you're looking for, but I would encourage you because, being up here is very difficult, especially when there's contentious items like this. But I would encourage the residents, if, for example, the motion is made to deny the appeal, I would encourage you to work closely with the developer. That I would encourage you to do, because you can help mitigate some of the concerns that you have by doing that. As you know, you've heard it from our city staff, you've heard it from the city council, the questions that have been brought up. I think most of the questions, if not all of them, have been addressed. And I think with respect to the comments that the mayor made, is there anything within that appeal that would allow us to make that decision to say we're going to deny the parcel split? And at this, from what it looks like and from what it stands, it doesn't appear that that's the case. But I do want to encourage the public, all of you, all the residents, to make sure that if it goes and the appeal is denied, to work closely with that developer. So those are my comments, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, if I could at this time, do we have a motion on item B?
Can I ask a question before you?
Sure.
Sure.
Gilbert Otero. City staff said that there's an easement that's going to be assigned to this property. But if you look at the, and looking at the drawing, at the little corner on the one facing Malin, the city planners, he made a reference that it was going straight to Malin Street, okay? That there's an easement there. But if you look at the drawing, there's a building that they're going to put right there. And if they're going to put a building there, how do you get the easement?
I'm sorry, he's taken a bio break for a moment, but I will perhaps have up our acting city engineer for a moment. The question for Mr. Otero is the placement of the easement relative to the the proposed structures.
Building type C, because I look at this, and this is the information I had. It says this is going to be facing Malin Street. But if you're going to put in an easement, so the easement, the reference was made that the easement was going to go straight right there to Malin Street from the furthest point north on the subdivision, on the parcel split.
I know it's hard, you can't see it here, but if you look at page 45 of the agenda packet.
That's the one that just came out, when.
No, this is the
Okay,
site plan that's
yeah.
approved back in January of 2015.
Okay,
So no, it's not, it just came out. But the site plan approval, one of the conditions makes note of public access via a driveway.
Yeah.
And so it's between the proposed structures that allows for access to the public street.
Directly out to Malin.
But the thing is that, you make comments that this, you're not talking about openness, that there's an easement coming up, and the thing is that, look, you listen to your attorney, he's already told you how you have to vote. So you're gonna vote that way anyway, because you gotta make a finding that he's already told you can't make, to deny. But the thing is that when you're dealing with specificity like we are right now, that, it has to be clear where that easement is gonna be. you know, and what you're doing here is that you're putting an easement through the middle of two sets of buildings and stuff like that, and if you ask anybody in the audience, no one was clear as to what it was, how the easement was. But you know, that's, and I understand the predicament you're in, but Mr. Nava, addressing your concerns about talking to the developer, I tried to talk to the housing authority, and they wanted their questions written out from individuals that wanted to meet with them. So it's kind of difficult to open up a dialogue when, you know, when people really don't want to talk. So that's it, and we'll wait for your decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Okay, so, all things considered,
Driveway locations.
if there's any further clarification, because I know the only individual that got eyes on on
So
a
Gordon,
different
if you
map that
could
we don't
kindly
have
come
up here.
forward for a moment, can you reference the locations where the public easements, and again,
It's a private easement, and
I'm
it's
sorry.
it's a blanket easement,
What does
which
that mean?
what means it goes across any driveways. Like I said, I can't show you on this one, but if you look on your page 45 again, any place there's the driveways where the parking areas is where the parcel, that's parcel 2, can access out to the public right-of-ways.
and maybe as a point of reference generally, when you see apartment complexes that are anywhere in the city, the access that is guaranteed for public safety purposes, and connecting to public right-of-way
And
is the same form.
Right, and there's other apartment complexes that are not just one parcel. They are 2 parcels just like this, and they have blanket easements across them, so it's not an unusual circumstance at all.
Blanket meaning anyway.
Okay. Okay, so, moving forward, any discussion, or you want to offer a motion?
I realize it's not a popular motion, so I'll make the difficult decision, and with all due respect to everybody here, I will make the motion to deny the appeal.
Okay, and again, I'm clarifying while the motion's out there, I don't hear a second yet, but we're deciding specifically on the topic of the lot split. And I want to make that clarification.
And the deny of the appeal means that the lot split is approved.
That's correct.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor,
Please say
please say aye.
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 Nay.
Yay.
Not in favor, so it's 3-2. No abstentions, so it's 3-2. The appeal is denied. All right, that will conclude that topic. We're going to move on to item 6.
No,
No, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right. We're moving on to regular business, item 6A.
Item
folks that-
6A is on the topic of North Rio Vista, and our acting city engineer, Guillermo Cias, is prepared to make a brief presentation. The staff report intended to outline the cause for this request. A set of resident concerns came forward relative to the segment that is between River Drive and Jones in the city of Brawley, and as currently designated, the roadway is identified for one-way traffic, and what is proposed in the potential action before you this evening is the allowance for movement in 2 directions between this roadway segment.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Guillermo Sillas, Acting Public Works Director. As the city manager mentioned, there was a concern about the traffic movement on Rio Vista between River and Jones, where the Rio Vista Avenue narrows to 20 feet. And the municipal code is written that should be, or that is in, the traffic is in just one direction. And what the city staff is proposing is to use it as a 2-way directions. We believe that there's enough room for that, and people is using it that way. So we installed signs with no parking legends to avoid the public to park over there, so to make it difficult. And so we are proposing that change, to use it as both ways and to write on the municipal code.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from council?
Well, I just took a drive by there just to see what it entailed, and it is pretty narrow, but I guess, I mean, if a car is coming the opposite direction, you can get by there, as long as the no parking is adhered to. Because
Right.
if you have somebody parked there, there's no way that you can get two vehicles through there.
Right, yes, we installed signs.
So they
to-
will be
to-
cited if they're parked on along that roadway?
Correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. That was a one-way initially, right?
Right.
When it was initially established, it was a one-way. Somehow, some developer came in and got some kind of deal with the city, so they made a weird, that's a weird avenue. Looks almost like an alley.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it was going to be, and then suddenly it becomes a pathway for people to utilize to get through that subdivision a little quicker and all those kind of things. So I think it's posed problems. There's been some accidents. I think there's been some issues. I'm not sure how enforceable it'll be for the police department to be out there enforcing that. I'm in agreement with it. I don't think we have any choice, but I don't know how enforceable. When we have the no parking, we're going to be towing cars and people are going to be parking.
citing.
For a while anyway, it's going to be a kind of a messy issue. Not that that's, your responsibility.
Right, I
It's just something that, that's a problem. And I think we allowed it to develop as a part of a parcel map, probably. And then,
Yeah, really.
I'm not so sure. No one, I don't think anyone was here when that happened at the time in the late 1960s.
So it can't be changed at all? I mean, there's
Well-
just no way?
No, there's private property along
It's
the
private
side.
property. We thought the
I drove through.
various alternatives, like to stripe the streets with the line in the middle, so dividing, but it will make to feel the drivers even more complicated because they will see a narrower
very narrow.
lane, so instead of have all the 20 feet, not that they can go in the wrong way, but it feel like much more room if we don't paint the line. But certainly at the intersections, we will put legends, stop and the stop bar, the stop legend and the stop bar. There's stop signs already, but it will be more visible if we add to the ground the legends.
Just a question. So I understand you say it's private property. I understand all that. Wouldn't it be feasible to maybe have a group, whoever's those properties belong to sit down and have a talk with them and ask them if, it'd be possible for us just to put a one-way? I
No,
mean,
it was a one-way.
It
is
was
a
a
one-way.
was a one-way.
It's currently
Oh,
a
it's still a
one-way.
one-way.
It's still a
But there are no
one-way. But I-
signs indicating it's one-way,
Yeah, there's
but
no
it is a
signs.
one-way.
okay, but my understanding is you're having two cars going through there now.
Yes, well, you do, because they just come back and forth. They just use it as, no matter which way they want to
They
use
use it as a
and they're
two
gonna
ways,
continue
even
to
it
do
was designated one way,
Yes.
but they were using it
They were
two
using it
ways.
both ways. And
Yeah.
parking there, too. by the
Also,
way.
what's interesting in that area is that it becomes unincorporated county of Imperial property as well. Our city limits are right on a portion of that
Right.
boundary.
So that's
Okay.
another issue, plus
That
the river
complicates
bottoms.
it, yeah.
Plus the river bottom's right there also,
Right.
which poses
Yeah.
its own problems. It's just a
Isn't
complicated
there a
mess.
requirement
and-
on the amount of feet that you have to have in order to have traffic going both ways?
Usually it's 12 feet, but it can narrows up to 10 and a half or 11,
And
But
what
it's-
is the width on this one?
20.
Oh, it is
But
20?
it's 20. But specifically, I mean, it has to do all with the traffic, since there's not much traffic there. So it's kind of an alley, but
It's
there's.
kind of an alley. but-
It is,
Yeah, it's kind of an alley, but it's kind of a street. Yeah, I
Really?
got
So
that.
12 feet
We
is
have a
is the
resident
requirement
with-
for
Well,
this?
it's
Yeah,
the most common, is not the minimum, but it's the most common width of the lane, 12 feet.
Mr. Silas, we have a comment or a question? Sure.
Hi, I'm Marcia Mello. I live on West Duarte. So this is my bailiwick, and I'd like to know if I was traveling north or south, which one would I have gotten the ticket for? Because I've never
Yeah.
seen a one-way sign.
There's never been one-way signs
I've
there,
never
but
seen
it's
a sign. I don't
designated
know which is
one-way.
correct.
Right,
Um,
great.
I've never seen a car parked along there. okay? And even if I'm not on that road, I kind of come up on Jones and turn. I personally am for making it a don't park here two-way because it's like a small mountain road. Everybody is considerate, kind of looks around.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're not going to have
A little bit of it.
issues or whatever, but most of them would be personal. I'm going through here whether you like it or not. Anyway, but as a resident of the area, I think it would be really cool to officially make it going both ways, because half the time I travel on it, I would be getting a ticket anyway, I guess. So not having any clue it was one way.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
either. So I just want to add my neighborhood notes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Mello, yes.
I think the two-way traffic is probably good to try, because I think right now, it doesn't matter whether you make it one way or not, they're gonna use it as a two-way. And I think they've been using it as a two-way, and I think if everybody understands it's a two-way, it may be safer for people pulling in and out and those types of things. Right now, if you consider it a one-way and you're not looking and you just pull out, you may get T-boned at any of those little intersections there. So I think maybe the fact that it's a two-way would be safer for everyone, as long as everybody understands that it's two-way now. But as long as they understand it's not one-way, I think that'll be even better. But there's been no one-way sign, so I don't know, but that's an ongoing issue.
My only concern was whether we met the legal requirements.
For
on
the width?
But if we do, then I don't see any problem.
Yeah,
with
we've
it.
got several that are a problem, I think, over there by the rest home, by the assisted living complex over there. That little street is very narrow, and you can park on one side, but you can't park on the other. But even when you go down there with two cars,
That's true.
you better be very, very careful, because it could be a
You're still
problem.
parking on two sides.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's
but
parking
that's
on
neither
two
here nor
sides.
there.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the item.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Not in favor? No abstentions? 5-0, motion carries. We'll move on to item 6B, discussion and potential action to approve urgency ordinance number 2015 ordinance of City Council of the City of Brawley, California, imposing temporary moratorium on the commercial industrial cultivation, processing, and distribution of medical marijuana in the city pending the completion of studies and the preparation of an update to the city's zoning ordinance. And for this topic, we have our planning director, Mr. Gordon Gast.
It's the second PowerPoint. Yes.
First.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go, medical marijuana.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening once again, Gordon Gast, Planning Director. This is just a temporary fix, basically. The state just a few months ago, in the middle of October, did 3 separate laws that they passed creating the regulatory framework for the medical marijuana. And this includes distribution, dispensaries, cultivation, several different topics. There is a time limit, though, that cities need to act before we can have more local control over those type of ordinances, and they're giving that opportunity right now. So we have to, right now, without, because I think the timeline is too long to make a change to our regular ordinance, that we need to just put a moratorium in place that gives us some time to get direction from the council and develop any future regulations. So there's only been one city in the valley that I'm aware of that's actually done an ordinance, and it was El Centro, and back in May, they did completely ban both dispensaries and cultivation. Talking to the planning director in Imperial, he informed me that probably towards the end of January, their council is going to be meeting on the direction they were given, which was considering limited cultivation. And the other cities, unless the city manager or somebody else, the city attorney, might have any other ideas about what's going on there. I haven't been able to obtain any information. They're pretty silent on it. So we'd like, obviously, the direction we need to go to know if we need to change our ordinances. Well, either way, we'd have to make some kind of a change to an existing ordinance or develop a new ordinance with new regulations.
Right, and the change is coming, thank you for that. So tonight is about imposing a temporary moratorium, so
Yes,
we
that's
can
it.
move forward and do
Correct.
the
Yeah,
proper due
tonight's just
diligence.
it's
Temporary
Any
moratorium.
discussion?
But we do have to have an ordinance in place by March 1st, right?
Correct.
Okay.
This is-
So this just gives us a little bit of time to,
Well,
We've had it in
there's a
place,
couple
yeah.
things that this will do
There
for
is
us.
something in place.
The first is that it preserves our local authority, because if the council takes no action and the timelines lapse, the state gets to come in and trump our rules. So what we're doing is saving a spot for, we want to be at the table regulating this activity. So we did solicit the help of our city attorney to review this, and I'm sure he's got some comments as well that may assist the council.
The city of Brawley already has a ban on medical marijuana dispensaries. It's just not going to be effective because it's not a land use ordinance. A land use ordinance requires a lot more study and a lot more work. It's not like adopting a no parking zone. And what we have in effect is a no parking zone, no dispensary ordinance. So it's not going to work.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what we're doing now is just putting a complete ban, urgency ordinance, moratorium, a ban on everything, and then we can go through the process at a normal pace and figure out what we're going to do. The big worry is that first of the year, people can, if we don't have something in place that's effective, people move to town and then they're grandfathered in.
Right, right.
By the time we get something in place, so we don't want that. Calipatria, by the way, is going to do has the same exact ordinance on for next week.
Yes,
I would
thank
like
you.
I'll make the motion that we approve the urgency ordinance temporarily, imposing a temporary moratorium on the commercial, industrial cultivation, processing, and distribution of medical marijuana in the city.
Second that motion?
Any further discussion,
No.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Not in favor, none, no abstentions, 5-0, motion carries. Next item is, Yes.
Mr. Wharton, may I request some additional feedback from the council relative to next steps and this subject matter? There's a couple of options for how we proceed with development of the ordinance. The sequence of a policy will, the traditional model is it would start with the planning commission and then come to the council and go through a first and second reading, and then 30 days after that become effective. Staff is wishing for some direction and feedback on whether you want to follow that model or you wish to pursue any number of alternatives, including a joint workshop where several options are considered and you have the benefit of the planning commission there at the same time as the council.
is
are we
anybody-
required to have like a public hearing on this type of thing?
You will eventually be required to, between first and second reading? No, second and effective date, to have a posting out for the public in a newspaper of general.
But the workshop
Circulation.
concept would give us much more upfront
And
input
because
from the
it's a
public.
zoning ordinance, we might have to have public
Public
hearings before.
Yeah, well, it depends, usually if
Can you
it's a
come up,
global-
Gordon?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Usually, if it's a global thing like that, what we'll do is we will have a public meeting. I don't know if it's required, because we've done some zoning changes, minor ones that don't require public hearings. But I think something like this that's citywide, we do usually have a workshop / public hearing, or we run it through the regular process of planning commission and council, which actually constitutes then 2 public hearings. And then, but I guess the requirement in this one is that you just have to have it for, the notification that you have to have in the paper before it's actually adopted.
I like the idea of some kind of public input.
Yeah, I do
I think
too.
I
I
like
think
that.
we should have
Central
a
did.
public hearing.
Do you like separate or do you like combined? Some of the things that you might want to think about with the combined workshop is that it gives the planning commission a chance to hear from you as council members, so they don't go maybe down a path that is inconsistent with where the council wishes to head, but that's your.
The only question I have with that is, does that will that create an issue later on if we have to rule against the planning commission or any kind of?
Planning commission doesn't adopt ordinances, they can only make
Yes.
recommendations.
Recommendations, right.
Okay, so we might have to, so it wouldn't have any impact, like in some cases, when we need to be the appeal board, then we have to be careful about what we do.
Right, you're not
with
the
that
appeal
commission.
board.
In this case, it's not.
In this case, they only exist to make recommendations to you.
Okay,
They
okay.
can't adopt
Then a
anything.
joint
Right.
meeting with them isn't a problem for me. I mean, I don't mind whatever.
I think I like the concept of a workshop, but maybe combined with a meeting, we may adjust the time so we can accommodate kind of that period, so.
When we
why
do the
don't look at
workshop,
that?
do we also do the public meeting at that time, have the public in there at that time, or do we treat that as a separate issue?
Maybe we'd be inviting,
It would be a public
Yeah.
meeting by
Yeah.
definition.
Because
as a
everybody's
workshop.
here, right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so as long as we notify.
See,
everybody.
that's, I believe, what El Centro did. They held at least one, if not two, correct?
And it's not the type where we have to mail to
Understood, yeah,
every.
workshop, right.
Because we're talking about a
Agenda.
global citywide. Now, if it comes down to a point where you think, well, maybe this is okay in this area because it's still more ag, then that would probably require mailing to certain people. But,
Okay.
but if you're talking a global city ordinance in our normal publications, we would handle it.
Right. And just examples of what we have on place with other businesses that are those type, like adult businesses, by law right now, I mean, because of federal law and the marijuana issue, it's a little different because it's prohibited by federal law.
Yeah.
And the state is giving us the option to basically opt out of the state's mandate because they're in conflict with the federal law. But other free speech things like adult businesses, things like that, you have to require an area for them to be located, but you can limit it. So you can be very similar in this if you choose. Yeah, very restrict, if you so choose to even have, like I said, your choice is to ban or to do limited certain types of activities or allow it basically in any zone of pharmacies allowed. There's all kinds of different things.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sure.
We've had this discussion before some of the council members have come on. We've had this discussion before regarding medical marijuana. We had a large audience, a lot of members came in to talk to us regarding this. We had some medical doctors that spoke to us regarding the viability of it and maybe the need for it for some patients with certain medical type problems. And so we kind of hashed this over a little bit, and I think at that time we said no, but I think we left it open for further discussion. So I think within the realm of what we can do, we want to limit it, but I think we're going to have to talk about it, because I think the state's headed in a certain direction, so, I mean, but, okay. But I think we've had some of this discussion. I think the public is interested in providing input, so.
So a joint meeting is desired with the planning commission. We'd identify a time that works for folks and kind of treat it as a education and then looking for some direction, not an action type of meeting, but
Sure.
a direction kind
Sure,
of
and
meeting.
we still have other meetings that you can, if you need further clarification, you
Yes.
can do that.
Right, because we'll have to then draft an ordinance, it'll come back
Right.
for
Okay.
action.
It's just the
Okay.
beginning.
All right, if we're good, we've moved on from that topic on, yes, sir.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Lupe Navarro, 671 South 18th. Now, what was the deadline that you mentioned that the state, if you don't have anything done by then, the state can, what was the date?
The new laws that the state passed take effect at the first of the year. So we had to have something in place, a moratorium like this, by the first of the year, otherwise the state would
Oh,
get to
it's the
decide.
first. Okay, so there is no deadline next year that, once you have something going, the state leaves you alone?
There are some other dates
There's
that are
a-
referenced in the state laws,
I
March of
heard March.
2016.
Is indicated in one of these memos.
Right, we'll have to have an ordinance in place by March, but
Yes.
we have plenty of time to do that.
90 days.
March 1st or the end of March?
No, it's in the middle of March, let me find out.
It's March 1st, I think.
Is
was
it March
the-
1st?
Yes, it says with regard to the cultivation element. This is only the growing of marijuana. An
March
ordinance
1st,
has
yeah.
to be, and not the dispensaries, not the mobile
March 1st,
deliveries.
yeah.
There's lots of elements to it, but the cultivation portion, if we don't have something in place by March 1st, 2016,
And the state.
the state will be able to be the governing authority for those items.
Now, when you said something in place, that means that the deal is done, the city has covered everything, and we're good to go after that, before that date?
At least an ordinance covering cultivation.
And that would, the state would leave us alone if we got something going?
Yes.
Right, so
Okay.
we're trying to preempt so we can kind of protect
Keep
the
local
city's
control.
position
Okay.
for local control.
All right, thank you.
Very good. All right, next item, item 6C, discussion and potential action to authorize contract change order number 1 to specification number 2015-03. Excuse me, purchase of a fire engine apparatus to Pierce Manufacturing in the amount not to exceed $52,339.11 at a time extension of 2 weeks for completion delivery, and authorize the city manager to execute all documentation in relation to this project.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Chuck Peraza, Fire Chief. I need to make a real quick correction on the completion or the extension. It's a typo. It states 2 weeks for completion. It's actually 30 days. That's just a safeguard for them to be delivering it out from Wisconsin to here. There is no, they don't have any ill feelings that the project will be completed. It's just for the delivery. And they took that into effect because of the weather. And obviously, we may be dealing with El Nino and whatnot.
Is that on this memo, or?
It's on the staff report.
Okay.
It's actually underneath the city manager recommendation, a time extension of 2 weeks. It should actually be 30 days.
And that is a no-cost
That is a no cost.
element of
Yeah.
the change order.
So the change order is to authorize the contract change order in the amount of $52,339.11. If you remember back in July of 2015, City Council authorized a contract for the purchase of a fire engine. The successful bidder was Pierce Manufacturing in the amount of $499,099.98, just below $500,000. That was through a community development block grant, which is the HCD, the Housing Authority Community Development. Back in November 9th, 9th through the 11th, we went out there for a pre-construction walkthrough through the process. So what we did was we took our specifications, our core specifications, we sat down at the table for probably about 2 days. We went through all the specifications, and then what we cross-reference is all the new mandates, the NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, which regulates the standards for firefighters. So we looked at all those standards, and we looked at the components of the engine. The majority of it is for the safety features, mainly electrical for our radio components that is going to be later installed. A lot of it was the electrical components for the LED lighting. There is some equipment involved in there, so it could actually be a turnkey engine once it's delivered. And we did make some modifications to step crossings into the engines and whatnot. Right now, you're looking at probably about a 22-inch step in. So we had created these stirrup steps, so we're actually stepping 12 inches in, which is a huge difference when we're stepping out of an engine, gaining 35 to 45 pounds of equipment on us. So I'm open for any questions.
We have any questions from council? Excellent, and at this point, I'll look for a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
to approve.
Second.
We have a second. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes, no abstentions? 5-0, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Also, as the process goes on, they give us a website, so I'll be able to provide a timeline and provide pictures to use for what our engines will look like. Actually, I had a conversation with our sales representative today, and our engine is sitting on the floor right now being built.
Very nice.
All right.
It's underway.
Thank you, Chief. That's a big Christmas present. We'll move on to
Long time coming.
item 6D, discussion and potential action to prepare a letter opposing the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's listing of the flat-tailed horned lizard as an endangered species. And I think Mayor Pro Tem Couchman.
Did we vote for the fire?
brought this issue?
Yeah, we did.
We did?
Yeah, we did
we
this
did.
time.
Well, that was so quick, I could.
Yeah, we voted.
You voted yes.
You voted yes.
I heard you.
It's time to go.
So item D, Mayor Pro
Yeah,
Tem Couchman.
I asked that this be placed on there because I am on an advisory commission related to the flat-tailed horned lizard and trying to keep it from being placed on the endangered species list. It is a somewhat protected species, and the state of California, or the federal government, I think, regulates how that species is handled. And right now, it seems to be in decline due to drought and some other factors. But our concern is that if it's listed as an endangered species, it will have severe impacts upon both agriculture and other types of alternative energy development, et cetera, within Imperial County. And so what we'd like to do is encourage California to not place that on the endangered species list for California purposes. And I think Mrs. Percola can elaborate on that a little bit. The draft letter that I submitted is in your package, and it is a draft, and we would probably want to maybe go over that and make sure that we've got that right.
I think I can drag this out till about midnight.
Oh, no.
Kate A. Percola, Executive Director of CoLab, and I'm chairing this task force, and I must say it is an eclectic group. We have energy, renewable energy issues. We have various government agencies, so it's, we have Off-Road Rec, who really took the lead on getting this. We have environmentalists, and their concern, which would be my first concern, is by putting it on the list in the state of California, it actually may harm it because there is an agency, an interagency group watching and monitoring it. And it would remove the 1% cap for development if it went on the endangered list. In other words, development could just go crazy, and which might harm it, we don't know. We find that the listing would also be very confusing. It would be a state of California listing, not applicable to federal, Indian lands, military facilities, wouldn't apply to Arizona, wouldn't apply to Mexico. So it just creates some confusion. The federal government has, since 1988, addressed this on 3 separate issues through 2003 and found, and my favorite phrase is, no merit in listing it. Okay? Now, the California Fish and Wildlife Commission will address the species without economic concerns. Their concern is only for the species. However, we here in Imperial Valley have to look at the whole big picture, and it will harm Governor Brown's proposed, actually mandated 50% renewable, because we are the area that is going to have the biggest opportunity for geothermal. And for the city of Brawley, it is a huge impact because I think those little geothermal things are right out there. It has already harmed just solar development. You may remember that First Solar out on Highway 8 was shut down for 3 days at the start because they found a flat-tailed horned lizard and they had to go out and do all the research. Shut it down, found out it wasn't being harmed. The numbers are in slight decline, but the science says that decline is not because of us and development or anything. It's something called a drought. And their food source is limited because of the drought. The droughts, I would like to say, is going to go away just like that. It's not going to be a concern. But the big concern by the folks who have filed the petition is that off-track, I want to say racing, place, the biggest habitat for it is out at Ocotillo. And we know there's lots out there. So every issue that the folks who petitioned this, we've looked at, and we can't find any merit to it. And we don't know what Fish and Wildlife staff is going to recommend. But we want to be ahead of the game by getting the word out for our community of what could happen. And if The recommendation is to list it. We will have all the letters that we can go forward. And if the staff says no, we don't recommend listing, but the Fish and Wildlife game, for whatever reason, says we want to list it, we will have so we're trying to be proactive in this case.
Okay, with that, I move that we prepare a letter opposing the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's listing of the flat-tailed horned lizard as an endangered species.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No noes, abstentions, motion carries, which will bring us to our final regular business item, item 6E, discussion of potential action to change the regular council meeting date and time on January 19th, 2016 to January 26th, 2016 at 6 p.m. And this is specifically to aid in accommodating Councilmember Jauregui as well as myself for the attendance of the California League of Cities new mayor and new council members academy.
I'd make a motion, if everyone's all right with it, I'd make a motion to approve the meeting date change from the 19th to the 26th, 6 p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Not in favor, none, and no abstentions. Motion carries. Date is changed. Thank you. That'll conclude our regular business. We'll move on to item 7, departmental reports.
There are none this evening?
There are none this evening. Very good. Moving on to item 8, informational reports. A are all the attendance and summary minutes for the City of Brawley Boards and Commissions from July 1, 2015 through December 11, 2015 that are included in your council packets as well as available to the public. Information only, correct?
Correct.
Any comments, okay. And then 8B, recording of building permits for October 2015, prepared by Francisco Soto, who is not with us this evening, building official, and that's also included in your council packets.
Correct, and just noted for the record, so public and council can see the construction activity occurring in our city limits.
There's a lot of that if you look at that report.
Busy.
Yes. If they think nothing's happening in Brawley, it's not true.
Excellent. There's no further. We'll move on to item 9, city council member reports, and I'll go geographically. Councilmember Noriega, if you'd like to start.
Okay, well, I have announcements. The American Legion will be handing out toys for underprivileged children. Also, they have 4 bikes they were given to raffle off to the children that attend. From 4 to 6, they will have activities. From 6 to 8, they will have visit from Santa. Then on Sunday, the day after, the ACC will also be giving out to underprivileged children at 11 a.m., beginning at 11 a.m. They will have also activities, they will have lunch, they will have gifts, they will have photos with Santa, and that's about it.
Thank you, Councilmember Noriega. We'll go to Councilmember Jauregui.
Well, it's been a busy week and a half. Let's see, I attended the lighting of the Christmas tree at the plaza, which was really fun. And then I also attended for the first time the one at the library, the angel ceremony, which was nice, and I think most of you attended that also. So I'm enjoying all the activities, and I know that there's a lot on the plate, but I'm enjoying everything so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jauregui. We'll go to Councilmember Nava.
I attended the ICTC Commission meeting that we had recently. Also attended the Angel Tea Party along with fellow council members, visited the senior center, spoke with them along with Councilmember Jauregui. And of course, the tree lighting ceremony we participated in. Also went to the chamber mixer at Community Valley Bank. That was, I was also there also. with Councilmember Jauregui.
I said I was busy, but I forget something.
Right. Farmers Market I attended as well and participated the Rollers Only Car Club in their toy drive, and I think they were successful in doing that, so good for them. And also attended an event held by the Elks Lodge 1420 in Las Chavelas Restaurant in Brawley, and it was a bike drive, and the goal is to raise enough money or purchase 100 bikes. I think they were at 95, 96 when we were wrapped up there. So, roughly about $10,000 worth of bicycles that go out to the public every year, and that's been great. Also went to, professionally, I was able to attend the mayor's lunch in La Quinta, and that was also a nice event with the chamber there, so. And there's others, but we'll move on. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Nava. Mayor Pro Tem Couchman.
I also attended the tree lighting and the angel tea, very nice. Thank you for the tamales. They're what I go for. It's excellent. Attended OEDC meeting in El Centro, one of the OEDC meetings. They had another one, and I think our city manager attended that one on my behalf. But I did attend the first OEDC meeting, which was last week. And then I went to the Elks Leading Night auction, which is a charitable auction that they use to raise money for scholarships, et cetera. And they have that this time of the year, and we bring a gift, and then they auction that off. I got some very good scotch at that one. I had to pay for it, though. Community Valley Bank, I attended the Chamber Mixer. I attended the Chamber of Commerce Board meeting, which occurred on Monday, this last Monday. I also went to the Chabela Elks fundraising barbecue and had the privilege of donating a bike for that. And that's a real good cause, and they got a lot of bikes, so that's a good deal. So, and that's about the extent of my activities in the last week or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Couchman, and I'll keep mine relatively brief. I think there was a little bit of a repeat, but certainly enjoyed the Christmas lighting, and certainly the entertainment there is, I think, the best of the best in Brawley as far as what we have to offer with the school kids. I think we had K and we had pre-K, I think there, so did a fantastic job, and Angel T as well. I want to commend the entire staff again, and Marjo Mello for always putting on a great event, and the tamales continue to get better. I don't know if they entered the tamale festival or not, but
We want to back them next year.
I think they do very well. Outside of that, I do want to, on behalf of all of us here on council, wish all of our staff and all those listening that are again out there throughout the city, throughout the valley, to have a very enjoyable, warm, relaxing holiday. I think we're down to what, 10 or 11 shopping days or whatever it is now. I lose track. It's 10 now.
15.
It's closing in.
It's a 15.
And I also want to wish my fellow council members and staff up here as well to have a happy holidays. So with that, I'll move on to item 10, our city manager's report.
Just a very brief update on the topic of a request that the city was in receipt of today, and I apologize, it came in late this afternoon. I did not have an opportunity to distribute it. There are some efforts being organized countywide for preparing for the upcoming temperature drops, severe weather to below freezing temperatures. And I did receive late this afternoon a request submitted on behalf of the Imperial Valley Regional Task Force on Homelessness to examine some options that might be a fit within our Brawley city limits. I have initiated some discussions with our Parks and Recreation staff to see if public facilities on that front might be available. I will also share that some preliminary comments and concerns that I very actively brought forward is we don't have experience in the operation of shelters, but maybe there's an operator out there that needs a location. There are several options being considered, including church sites as well as city facilities. The nature of this request has been focused on the Lions Center. I will share with you that next week we do have scheduled activities during the holiday season that are part of the open gym hours for kids whose parents are working during the normal workday. It's a place for them to go. There's any number of potential configurations to this. So as we talk with this task force, I know they were making a presentation this evening to El Centro. They were not scheduled for action, though. I think we're going to have some requests coming forward here in addition to what is part of today's email communication. They are proposing the format of a facility that could accommodate entry at 6 p.m. in the evening and exit prior to 7 a.m. the following day. They have some initial conversations that they've pursued with Catholic Charities. We are looking at any number of potential venues, but of course, wish to hear from the council on your willingness to pursue this type of an effort. The insurance question is still hanging out there. I asked who the operator, would be, how would that be covered? And at least in today's communication, it referenced that the task force will be asking that the County of Imperial provide liability insurance coverage and that the City of Brawley be named as an additional insured. So just want to make you aware of that, and I'll be reaching out to you for any comments or questions in the coming days.
Just to comment, there's some veterans that are homeless also, and I believe that they should be reaching out to the National Guard people with the Armory.
Right.
We should probably contact them because there are veterans out there.
My concern with Lions Center is that we have children's activities there. We
Yes.
have a lot of other things going on.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's a very good
No.
fit. If there's
No.
a church facility or something where adults are primarily present, I think that probably makes more sense. We don't have any real knowledge of overnights. We do the cooling centers, and I've seen us do that with the library and stuff,
Yes.
where they come in during the day, but they leave at night. They don't spend the night. I think that's where we run into some additional problems with how do you separate male, female? How do you do the things that need to be done with that kind of facility? And I just don't think we're prepared necessarily to take on that task. If we have some support agency that's willing to do that, I'm certainly willing to entertain a utilization of some type of facility if we can find one that's available.
Yeah, I would share like similar concerns with respect to, how do we check for drug use, alcohol abuse, those sorts of things, and even criminal records. And so those are the things that would concern me. Not to say, of course, any homeless person is like that, but certainly I know that would be a concern for many people, so.
Well, the questions that come to my mind are, is the task force, are they the ones that would coordinate and do all of the work? Or would that involve some city staff, our city staff? Because then you run into taking the staff away from what they normally do and.
I think there would be some level or degree of staff involvement. Their proposed approach is to utilize an entity like Catholic Charities and a volunteer pool. They referenced that last year, the city of Calexico hosted a 3-month installation in a public park with temporary housing accommodated, and that was the way they bridged the winter months. To my knowledge, that was the first time it was tried in that form. They also referenced that the Red Cross would be a supplier of all of the bedding and the size of what I said. I think it's really important for us to understand the scale of what you're seeking.
Our involvement.
And they described a population of 15 individuals and in some cases families. Another way in Brawley.
In Brawley.
They have not had a lot of success in outreaching to our local faith-based organizations, because that has been the approach that they indicated they tried but weren't successful. Other ways to maybe address this, something to think about for the council is, would the city be interested in participating in the establishment of motel vouchers? That's another way to accommodate a need for housing and a space that.
I think it's an avenue to look at. I don't know.
And but also, if they're looking for, food and stuff, Brawley Feed the Need is, they would also help with that.
I believe the approach will involve the food preparation activities that are currently a part of the Catholic Charities efforts that we have housed over, for instance, at the senior center.
Okay, but they also have the Brawley Feed, which is different than that. Yeah. They fed 31 people today.
So they do phenomenal work. Anything else?
That is all that I have at
Manager's
this time.
report? Okay.
The only thing with this is that it's something that we probably needs to be addressed right away because the cold weather comes and then
It's
it's
now,
gone.
yeah.
So it's almost like somebody would have to be assigned to work with this task force.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we're ready to make that kind of give you that kind of direction. You would need to know, like now, wouldn't you? Pretty much.
I'm just giving you people they could contact, like Pastor
Yeah.
Richard Rodriguez.
Yes.
Also House of Bread Ministry. They're helping out.
Because you brought up the part about the motel vouchers, and my question then would be, what type of revenues do we have for that, and where
We
would it come
have to-
from?
I would have to come to the council for a future budget adjustment to reflect a particular dollar value that would be pulled from the reserve. We did make inquiries today of Housing and Community Development that holds the regulatory responsibility for our program income funds. And our hope was that perhaps the balance on hand for program income might be utilized. Unfortunately, they declined the use within their parameters.
With cold weather, though, that could run into weeks. I mean, a couple of weeks anyway, and that could run into some money. I mean, if we're trying to house 15 families or 15 individuals over the span of 2 or 3 weeks, that could run into quite a bit of money.
But I still think that
But
we should
have to
ask,
make an effort. I
like the
mean.
Brawley Inn and the,
Right.
and Motel 6 and the Best Western and all the little ones that we have, see if they're willing to help donate.
They may be willing to donate, that may be another avenue.
They've always been pretty gracious.
Right, and for future reference, we need to really work on this, addressing it longer term so that we have some of these plans. So next
Yeah.
year and the year after,
Yeah,
we
we
have
could-
something
we could
more in
look
place.
into
So
that for something.
I think all good ideas, but again, being able to pull resources right now and on short notice, I think we should do all we can with what we have, but without council action, I think we'd be limited on coming back with something where we would be dedicating staff time or what the case may be.
And
So,
I would
yeah.
suggest getting a committee made up of the people like the ones that I give you, Brawley Feed, the Brawley Inn, getting all of them together and, making a committee out of them so that the burden will not just be on us.
Maybe
On you.
asking the homeless what they want. I think would be
Yeah, that
important,
might
too.
be another idea, too.
They may not even want that, so. I was invited to speak with the homeless task force, and I fortunately wasn't able to make the meeting, but I wish I would have participated that day.
Okay, if there's no further, we'll move on to treasurer's report, item number 11. Treasurer's not here this evening.
He's out sick.
He's under the weather, and there's no other report. We'll move on to item 12 then, city attorney's report.
We'll wait till closed session.
Okay, item 13, city clerk's report. That'll bring us to item 14, closed session. Regular session is closed. Thank you very much. Just
Two things. Take them out here. Hey,